Have you noticed that most of the things that steal your peace are the ones you cannot control? Maybe you keep trying to manage opinions, results, or even the future, and that's exactly what fuels your anxiety, anger, and frustration. The truth is harsh. As long as you fight what is not under your control, serenity will always slip away. But there is a timeless path, practiced by great minds like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, that can completely reshape your mind. And here's the provocation. The secret to freedom is not doing everything you want. It's the opposite. Real strength lies in mastering yourself, in staying calm when everyone else is losing balance, in turning insults into fuel and adversities into training. It may sound counterintuitive, but it is this very reversal that creates inner peace and an unshakable mind against chaos. If you've ever felt dominated by stress, anger, or anxiety, this video is for you. Today, you'll discover how to apply Stoicism in practical ways, how to control emotions, how not to be shaken by difficulties, and how to find serenity that nothing external can steal from you. So, hit the subscribe button, leave your like, and share this video, because what you'll learn here can change your life from the inside out. Many people live as if they were prisoners of external circumstances, constantly trying to control the uncontrollable, the opinions of others, fate, sudden changes in life. But Stoic philosophy reminds us that true strength begins when we distinguish what is within our control from what never will be. It's like trying to dry ice with a towel. Wasting energy on what you can't change only multiplies frustration. When the focus shifts to what is in our hands, the mind finally finds peace. Imagine a person who spends hours dwelling on criticism. If they understand Stoicism, they'll realize they cannot control the tongue of others, but they can control their own reaction. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that it is not the events themselves that harm us, but the judgment we pass on them. This clarity works like an invisible shield. It saves energy and brings serenity against negativity. In the end, ignoring insults becomes a form of true mastery of the mind. Want to see this in practice? Think of a very common situation: chaotic traffic. You cannot order cars to disappear or force every driver to obey the rules, but you can choose between reacting with anger or maintaining emotional control. The one who chooses calmness does not get shaken, protects their health, and proves that mental strength is the result of self-discipline. Peace of mind is not found in a silent world, but in a silent mind. This principle also applies to life's greatest losses. We cannot control death, the passing of time, or certain injustices that fall upon us, yet we can govern how we respond to them. Ancient wisdom teaches that accepting the inevitable is not weakness, but emotional intelligence. The weight of resisting what cannot be changed only intensifies suffering, while acceptance opens space for self-improvement and resilience. Seneca used to say that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. How many times have you worried about scenarios that never actually happened? Resilience training consists of filtering what is imagined and what is truly within your power. By refusing to fight against ghosts, you free energy to act upon what is real. This change of focus is like swapping a foggy lens for a clear one. Suddenly, everything becomes sharp. And when we understand this power, a new kind of inner freedom is born. A peace that does not depend on external circumstances, but on the governance of the soul itself. This is the foundation of the Stoic way of life, mastering oneself so as not to be enslaved by the storms of the world. And at this point, discipline begins to take form, because how could one live in balance without first directing one's own choices? True freedom is not about doing everything you want, but about governing yourself. Stoic philosophy teaches that those enslaved by impulses can never be masters of their own lives. Discipline is the key that opens the door to self-control, turning chaotic desires into conscious choices. Freedom, in this sense, is not the absence of limits, but the ability to master them. Take someone who wants to achieve financial independence. If they spend without planning, they become slaves to debt. But if they practice self-discipline, they save, invest, and build true freedom. The same happens with the mind. Whoever gives in to anger loses emotional control, while the one who trains to stay calm in silence conquers mental strength. Paradoxically, discipline does not oppress, it liberates. Marcus Aurelius said that life demands order. Waking up early, caring for health, reflecting daily, and acting with purpose are habits that mold character. By cultivating small rituals of discipline, a person creates inner stability. With that, they don't get dragged by vices, distractions, or the anxiety of wanting everything at once. Discipline works as a shield against mental disorder. A practical example, someone who commits to exercise not only strengthens the body, but trains the mind. Every workout becomes a lesson in perseverance, where the urge to quit is defeated by consistency. This same mechanism applies to studying, meditating, or controlling anger. Discipline is the invisible muscle that sustains all self-improvement. The more it is practiced, the stronger it becomes. Seneca reminded us that without discipline, the mind becomes vulnerable, an easy prey for ego and passions. Those who live without inner order easily fall into procrastination, discouragement, and emotional chaos. But those who train resilience and remain firm in their routine find serenity even under external pressure. Discipline is not a prison. It is the map that guides us where we truly want to go. And once this power is understood, life is no longer like a boat adrift. A person begins to navigate with direction, knowing that even in turbulent seas, they hold the helm firmly in their hands. But for this helm to work, something more than discipline is needed. A conscious perception of the world, a clear vision of the events around us. The mind becomes stronger when it learns to interpret events consciously. For Stoic philosophy, it's not the events themselves that disturb us, but the way we perceive them. A loss can be seen as tragedy or as lesson, a criticism as poison or as an opportunity to grow. Everything depends on the lens we choose to wear. Whoever controls perception also controls the weight the world has on them. Picture two people facing the same situation, losing their job. One collapses, believing life is over. The other sees it as a chance to rebuild, to explore new paths. What makes the difference is not the event, but the interpretation. Stoicism shows us that the real power of staying calm is not in avoiding difficulties, but in training the mind to see beyond them. Epictetus taught that it is not things that trouble us, but the judgments we make about them. This means that by training perception, we create a barrier against negativity. Instead of reacting with anger to an insult, we can see it as a chance to practice mastery of the mind. Instead of seeing a problem as the end, we can reframe it as a beginning. Perception is the key that turns pain into ancient wisdom. A practical example lies in moments of conflict. Someone attacks you with harsh words. If you let the ego take over, you retaliate and lose your peace. But if you change your perception, you realize those words reveal more about the other person's weakness than about you. By distancing yourself emotionally, anger loses its grip. This perception exercise becomes resilience training. Perception also shapes our view of the future. How often do we see obstacles as towering walls, when in reality they were only steps to climb higher? By adjusting the way we interpret events, we shield the mind from anxiety and fear. In this way, external chaos cannot invade our inner peace. That is the true power of a philosophy of life that seeks serenity within. And when we master this art of seeing the world with clarity, we discover that nothing external has real power over us. What once shook us now becomes fuel for growth. Yet for perception to truly serve us, we must also develop another essential skill: remaining calm in the face of adversity, the next step for anyone who seeks unshakable mental strength. Finding inner peace does not mean living without problems, but learning to stay calm even when chaos arrives. Stoic philosophy shows us that real power is not about avoiding storms, but about walking firmly through them. When we train the mind not to be shaken, we discover that crises stop being enemies and become training grounds for our mental strength. One of the Stoic practices was negative visualization. Marcus Aurelius and Seneca used to imagine difficult scenarios before they happened. This was not pessimism, it was preparation. By reflecting on losses, pain, or failures, they strengthened themselves against fear and anxiety. When adversity did come, they were already prepared, like soldiers who train before the battle. Think of something simple, an unexpected delay before an important meeting. Many people would lose their temper, complain, and let anger take control. but a Stoic sees it as a chance to practice patience. Instead of exploding, they take a deep breath, reorganize their thoughts, and act with emotional intelligence. This small daily practice is what builds true resilience. Calmness in the face of difficulty also prevents reckless decisions. How many times have choices made in anger led to regret? When the mind is at peace, we evaluate options more clearly and act strategically. Serenity, cultivated through inner training, works like a shield, protecting us from the consequences of ego and impulsivity. It's important to note that staying calm does not mean being passive. Quite the opposite. It means acting with clarity. Those who are not dominated by stress can see solutions that others, blinded by fear or rage, cannot. It's like being in a fire. While most run around without direction, the Stoic calmly looks for the exit with steady steps and a clear mind. Calmness becomes the greatest weapon, and the more we cultivate this calmness, the more we realize it is not just a technique but a way of life, a posture that shields us from external pressure and brings us closer to true inner peace. But to solidify this strength, there is another powerful element: silence and reflection, tools for mastering impulses and shaping the mind towards self-improvement. For the Stoics, silence was never the absence of sound, but the presence of wisdom. In a noisy world, where everyone wants the last word, mastering speech is a sign of mental strength. Controlling the tongue, listening more, and reflecting before reacting works like an invisible shield against unnecessary conflicts. Those who speak less observe more, and those who observe more understand reality more deeply. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote to himself daily. He used silence as a space for self-improvement, reflecting on mistakes, successes, and lessons learned. This practice is simple and still useful today. Writing in a notebook about your challenges, thoughts, and insights. Such an exercise organizes the mind, strengthens emotional control, and acts as a compass to align actions with the Stoic way of life. In practice, silence also prevents us from becoming prisoners of the ego. How many times have we regretted words spoken in anger? Stoicism teaches us to pause before responding, to create a gap between stimulus and reaction. And in that gap lies freedom, the freedom to choose how to act. This mastery of the mind turns arguments into dialogue and insults into opportunities to practice patience. Seneca reminded us, "It is not because we have a mouth that we must use it all the time." Silence can often be more eloquent than 1,000 words. In the face of an insult, staying silent can be more powerful than striking back. Under pressure, silence allows reason to govern instead of emotion. This is emotional intelligence in its most practical and transformative form. Daily reflection works like polishing a mirror. The more often you do it, the clearer your self-vision becomes. The habit of analyzing what you did and how you reacted builds awareness. And awareness is the first step in personal development. Introspection helps us adjust our path and frees us from the prison of automatic reactions. Silence is the fertile ground where wisdom grows. And when we cultivate this space of calm and reflection, we discover that the mind does not need to be lost in external noise. Silence becomes a companion and reflection a tool for inner transformation. Yet this process only reaches its fullness when life is guided by something greater. Living according to virtue and purpose, the strongest foundation of Stoic philosophy. For the Stoics, there is no true inner peace without alignment with virtue. Courage, justice, wisdom, and temperance were not just lofty words, but the pillars of a practical philosophy of life. Whoever lives, guided by these values, finds direction even when the world seems without it. It is like holding a reliable map in the midst of chaos. Virtue guides choices and strengthens the soul. Think of someone who works only for money without purpose. An inner emptiness soon appears, no matter how much they achieve materially. But when actions are guided by solid values, every step gains meaning. Stoicism teaches that a life without purpose is like a ship without a rudder, drifting at the mercy of fortune. A life based on virtue, however, transforms even obstacles into part of the growth path. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, had absolute power, yet reminded himself daily to act according to justice. This constant self-improvement made him a respected leader. Living by virtue does not mean being perfect, but committing to continuous effort. It is resilience training that strengthens us because it depends not on external circumstances, but on internal choices. Living with purpose also means resisting the temptations of the ego. The pursuit of status, recognition, and instant pleasure may look attractive, but it leaves us vulnerable to external changes. When the mind is anchored in higher values like wisdom and justice, it becomes unshakable. This does not eliminate hardships, but gives us clarity to face them with courage and balance. Seneca used to say, "It is not that life is short, but that we waste much of it." And we waste it when we live without purpose, reacting to every impulse or distraction. Purpose is what gives coherence to our actions, what turns effort into progress. Whoever finds this meaning experiences a peace of mind that does not depend on the outside world, but on mastering oneself. Thus, we understand that strengthening the mind is not only about controlling emotions or managing stress, but about living in harmony with principles that elevate the spirit. This is the freedom no obstacle can take away. The freedom to choose virtue and walk with purpose. But how can we put all this knowledge into practice in daily life? That is where the introduction of this journey begins, the invitation to transform life through Stoicism. Now that you've learned the principles that strengthen the mind and bring inner peace, the question is, what will you do with them? Will you keep reacting impulsively, letting stress, anger, and anxiety control your life? Or will you apply this ancient wisdom, practice discipline, train calmness, and live by a purpose that truly transforms you? The choice is yours, and no one can make it for you. Think about it. How many situations could have been different if you had chosen silence instead of immediate reaction? How many times would it have been wiser to see an obstacle as an opportunity rather than a tragedy? These reflections can open the path to self-mastery and real personal growth. And I want to hear from you. Which Stoic teaching spoke the most to you? Was it clarity about what depends on you, the value of discipline, the power of perception, staying calm in adversity, the strength of silence and reflection, or living by virtue and purpose? Comment below. Your answer may inspire someone else on the same journey. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep walking with us. Here you'll learn step by step how to become unshakable, how to build mental strength, and how to live with serenity in a chaotic world. Your transformation has already begun, and the next video may be the step you've been waiting for.